What's one unsolved mystery you'd like to see solved before you die? Story 1. In 1994, I found a cinema ticket stub for Speed in my jacket pocket. I never saw Speed at the cinema, nor did I lend my jacket to anybody that had. I'd like to know where it came from, so I can one day sit through the film without wondering about it. Story 2. The takedown of my father. He wasn't anyone famous or influential, wasn't rich or connected to any big wigs, but he was a good man. I feel his wife got away with takedown him, made a good life for herself on his corpse. Story 3. The Alps takedown, as they're known in the UK. An English family on holiday in France are assassinated with an old pistol with accuracy that points towards a professional hit. A cyclist is found takedown in the same lay-by too by the same weapon. The assassin thought they had tied up all loose ends until after 8 hours on the scene, the French police found their 4-year-old daughter hiding under her dead mother's legs. 9 years later, there's still no clue over who or why they were all taken down. GQ did the best article about it. Inessarm Gilwai. Answer. This year, the investigation of the ALP takedown, or La Tuerie de Chevaline, as we call it, was reopened after some searches in a different case that sounds like the plot of a polar. A CEO, Muriel Millet, ordered a hit on a syndicalist. Members of the Freemason Lodge called Athenor actually organized the hit. They confessed and are incarcerated, using as hitmen 2 agents from the DGSE, the French Secret Services. It revealed a few other successful and unsuccessful hits, all having this Athenor Lodge as a common denominator. After the searches, they reopened the Alp takedown case, so I guess it's safe to speculate that it was most probably an organized hit gone wrong since a cyclist saw it and subsequently got shot. Story 4. Where Ian Brady buried Keith Bennett. I doubt we'll ever know now unless someone happens to stumble over his remains. But my heart aches when I think of that poor boy's mother being tormented by his killer until the end of her life. Story 5. As someone from Columbus, the disappearance of Brian Schaffer, it eliminates me that all these years later, there still isn't a definitive answer to what happened to him. I really hope the case gets solved in my lifetime. Story 6. I'd like to know what happened to Andrew Gosden, a 14-year-old boy left home in Yorkshire one morning in 2007, dressed in his school uniform, and then withdrew all his money from his bank account. He went back home after his parents had gone to work and changed out of his uniform, then went to the train station and bought a one-way ticket to London, about 2 hours away by train. There is CCTV footage of him leaving King's Cross Station, but that's the last time he was seen. He didn't tell his parents he was planning to go to London, and it's never been established why he went there. I'd love to find out he's actually okay, or even if not for his parents to finally find out what happened to him. Answer. I hadn't heard about this and just looked up the pretty limited Wikipedia page and watched the CCTV footage and kind of agree with the top comment on that CCTV footage. He did this as a spur-of-the-moment thing, which is why he left stuff behind, and the likelihood is that he committed tragic end. One-way ticket, left money he saved at home, no charger for his PSP. With the money he had, he would have been able to eat when needed but not stay indoors anywhere. If he had stayed somewhere, he would have already been identified, and as 14-year-old, if he had ran off to London, he would have already become homeless and gone back on what he was doing immediately and identified himself to someone to be able to return. Doesn't mean that foul play hasn't happened at some point, as we know that has been a common history for London's homeless population, but it leaned more towards the former happening. Edit, and with a potential trigger warning. People are saying, why go to London? Where is the body? Maybe he had this. Maybe he had that first off. I just gave my opinion on what happened. Am not presenting that I know for a fact he committed tragic end. I even left it open to the idea that something else happened. I just think that, realistically, he eliminated himself. Why go to London? He lives in Doncaster, so yeah, there are places he could totally have just done it. But, and it is a common theme from my experiences, you don't want to put your family through the pain of finding you dead, which can also be applied to the left behind passport. Also, often no note is left behind. Then also, London is a big place, easy to hide amongst a crowd and blend in, but it also has a huge river running through it. If you were committing such an act, then it'd be an obvious spot. Also taking 200 in. My mind is to guarantee a day of ticket. In the UK, they cost a lot IDKY. Where's the body? Again, London is a big place. People go missing, die, etc. every day or every other day. And I think we'd all be surprised at the lack of discoveries of bodies in the city. If he is in the Thames, fat chance they'd bother dredging it. Could also washed out somewhere? Could be in a building, but they can't kick every building's doors in to find him. Also, surely they would have DNA samples from his house, and if he went to a hospital, something would show up. He would also need to be able to identify himself. Hard to do anything here without an identity. Also, maybe they did get a body, but they have no idea if it was his or one of potentially many, supposedly, at the bottom there. What if someone gave him X? My first thought when reading was that, yeah, he could have been groomed. Obviously, there is more at play, more people, more motivations, could be whatever. Could even be he wanted to spur of the moment go visit his grandmother in London as he had been offered the chance earlier, went unannounced, and in the space of getting off the train, God knows. I would like if one day he turned up. That's a nice thought, but realistically, I don't think he is alive, sadly. Again, it is all just speculation, but in my mind, nothing about this screams special case other than the lack of clear motive. Story 7. A girl from my hometown, Tupelo, MS, disappeared under suspicious circumstances, blood and hair found, glasses left behind, etc. On a school day when we were both about 12 VOBYOKAL, I'm 39 now. Her name is Lee Aki. Her body was never found. She used to come to school with obvious signs of physical abuse. No one was ever charged. It still breaks my heart. I need to know what happened. Story 8. The disappearance of William Terrell, basically a 3-year-old kid, was kidnapped in his front yard after the foster grandma went inside for a glass of water, and she heard screaming from the sister, and when she ran out, he was gone. This happens around 2014, and I still remember his face on the news in his Spider-Man costume. Story 9. I would love for Mr. Cruel to be caught. He abducted and violated young girls in Melbourne, Australia in the 1980s. His last known victim is Carmine Chan, whom he abducted and take down in 1991. Story 10. What happened to the Beaumont children? Changed the way parents in my hometown thought about letting their kids out on a weekend forever. Answer. Ugh. I can't imagine the feeling they had when the kids didn't show up at 12, then at 2. Then they couldn't find them at the beach. That crescendo of panic is absolutely miserable. So sorry for them. Edit. Oh man. If those letters weren't a hoax, I don't know how the parents could live with themselves. About 2 years after the disappearance, the Beaumont parents received 2 letters supposedly written by Jane and another by a man who said he was keeping the children. The envelopes showed a postmark of Dandenong, Victoria. The brief notes describe a relatively pleasant. The letter from the man said that he had appointed himself guardian of the children and was willing to hand them back to their parents. In the letter, a meeting place was nominated. Citation needed. The Beaumont parents, followed by a detective, drove to the designated place, but nobody appeared. It was some time later that a third letter, also purported to be from Jane, arrived. It said that the man had been willing to return them, but when he realized a disguised detective was also there, he decided that the Beaumonts had betrayed his trust and that he would keep the children. There were no further letters. Story 11. My best friend's little brother disappeared from an army base last July. Good or bad, I'd like to know what happened to Pastor Richard Halliday. Story 12. What caused the Bronze Age collapse? I know that it is a bit esoteric, but I really want to know for sure. There are a few interesting theories, but no definitive answer. Story 13. Why my son took his life last year, and if there was anything I could have done to stop him. I just want the Army to release his tragic end note already. Story 14. The boy in the box. His body was exhumed a couple of years ago to obtain DNA for forensic genealogy. I just want the poor little thing to have his name back. Whoever he was, I hope someone remembers him and still thinks about him. Answer. There was a woman who claimed to know. I think her name was Mary. She was a little girl at the time. He was unofficially adopted by her mother, who abused the child. She told the cops of a me.o.ru of her mother cleaning the boy up a bit, cutting his hair, and putting him in a box they dumped on the side of the road. If I remember correctly, she mentioned seeing another witness drive past them, near the spit where the box was left. I think the cops thought her story was credible, but because the woman had mental health issues, especially back during the time she came forward, they couldn't confirm her story. Story 15. What is dark matter? Or better put, what about physics do we not understand that is causing the effects we see that we attribute to dark matter? Story 16. Not all of the Egyptian pyramids have been fully explored. I'd like to know what's in and under those pyramids. Also, what is hidden deep in the Vatican's archives? I'd like to know that too. And while we're here, what about the mystery of the missing packet whenever you send something over the internet? Answer. Honestly, I don't think that these pyramids would be that interesting. After the Old Kingdom, it wasn't the kings who built them, just high priests and stuff, so they would fall in line with their contemporaries when it comes to art. What's real interesting is Thinis, the first capital of Egypt, but still undiscovered. It would be a game changer in regards to the knowledge of the early dynastic period. We know the rough location, so it's a matter of time before we find it. Story 17. I would like John Walsh to be able to find the person who took down his son, the reason behind Code Adam. Being raised in Florida in the 80s, this story was heard so many times. Now, with what John Walsh has been doing my entire lifetime, and currently with Gabby Petito's case, I think he's more than earned it. Answer. John Walsh believes Otis Toole eliminated Adam, and the case is considered closed. Unfortunately, Otis Toole confessed to a lot of takedown he really didn't commit, and though I haven't read up on it in a long time, I believe he didn't even have accurate details about the crime. It's interesting, really. I've read that John simply wanted it solved because Adam's head was still in police custody after 25 years, and they just wanted to put him to rest. Absolutely tragic. Story 18. The disappearance of Sandy Irvine and what's on the camera he was carrying. Sandy Irvine and George Mallory attempted to summit Everest in 1924. Mallory was discovered in 1999, but the body of Irvine is still missing. Story 19. MH370. I'm sure they'll eventually find the wreckage and have a better idea exactly what happened, but even today, they're still finding old WTU-2 ships, and even ships older than that, so I hope that it's found before I leave, because I do wonder what happened to that plane. I just hope it's a matter of years or decades, and not centuries. Story 20. What is the disturbing, hurtful event that my Uncle Bill won't talk about, and what does it have to do with me? I was adopted out, found my birth mom after she had died, and the rest of her family defers to Uncle about not talking to me because of that event. Simon Uncle, it's been over 57 years. Story 21. How this lawyer in Argentina managed to shoot himself in the back of the head twice in a locked bathroom day showers before he was going to depose the former PM of Argentina. Story 22. The disappearance of Amy Bradley. We grew up on the same street and played together as kids. The loss was devastating to her family. Story 23. I don't remember what the case was called, nicknamed, but it is a missing 411 case. 3 friends were hiking a mountain. They were tied onto a line together. The 2 at the front noticed that the line got significantly lighter out of nowhere, so they pulled the line expecting to be met with weight of their friend. What they pulled up was a now severed end of rope and no friend in sight. They went back, assuming they'd find their friend taking a break or something like that, but he was gone, nowhere to be found. What makes this case really weird is that the particular stretch they were on wasn't particularly steep. It was only slightly inclined, and there were no steep falls nearby. Yet he was gone, as if he was picked up and removed from the mountain. The most they ever found of him was his backpack several miles off the path in a cave, which is weird all on its own because there was no plausible way he could have gotten there from where they were on the trail. I think about it at least once a week. What in the hell could have happened to him? Edit. I should add that, yes, it's plausible this story is a hoax. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so I know exactly how strange the woods can seem. It could be a hoax, it could be a takedown, it could somehow be true. I'll never know. But that's why I want to know. Story 24. I would love to see how a black hole works before I die. We know it sucks in all the matter to the singularity, but we don't know where it goes from there. Finding how a black hole works will change the understanding of the universe itself. I hope it happens during my lifetime. Answer: I'm no expert, but my understanding is the mass mostly stays there. I say mostly because black holes do lose mass due to Hawking radiation. My understanding of Hawking radiation is that there are subatomic particles and their antiparticles popping into existence all the time. Then they annihilate each other. When this happens on the event horizon, sometimes the antiparticle falls into the black hole and annihilates some mass, while the particle gets flung out into space. Story 25. What happened to Isabella Ariokalua? How does a 6-year-old go missing and after a week of search parties her parents just stop looking because they have to go to work? I'd search day and night until I knew where my babies were. Answer: investigators have not yet deemed the case suspicious due to a lack of evidence. We are hoping she isn't in immediate danger, said Interim Honolulu Police Chief Raid Vanek on 15th of September. How can a 6-year-old be missing for 4 nights and not be deemed suspicious? Of course she is in danger. She's 6. Even something as simple as access to drinking water would be an issue at this point. Are they thinking she packed enough water and snacks for a week away camping? More than just the parents' reactions just don't seem enough. Obviously it's ramped up in the last 10 days, but I would be screaming for the police to throw everything at it from the moment I realized. Story 26. Whatever happened to Johnny Gosh, a boy who disappeared from Des Moines, Iowa in 1982 when he was 12 years old? Story 27. My friend's husband went out to pick up Chinese food a few nights before Christmas and was shot dead that evening in a bowling alley parking lot in Waterford, CT. They had 3 lovely kids, and it's so sad for his family that this remains a cold case. Police are seeking out leads for the unsolved 2012 takedown of a Connecticut father of 3. providing awards of up to $25,000 for any information that leads to the murderer's conviction. On January 21 of 2012, according to police in New London County, 34-year-old Kyle Seidel was shot in the Family Bowl bowling alley's parking lot while on his way to the Lucky Inn Chinese restaurant in Waterford. Police are asking members of the public to recall anything they may have witnessed that night in the area of that parking lot on Boston Post Road around 8 p.m. Police ruled this passing a homicide, and in February of 2014, then-Governor Daniel P. Malloy authorized an award amount for tips leading to an arrest, police said. Information on this case can be extended anonymously to the Waterford Police Department by calling 860-437-8080 or calling the Waterford detectives directly at 862-442-0645. Story 28. There's a girl in my hometown, a preschool teacher, who just disappeared 2 years ago, and they are 100% certain she was kidnapped. There might be an active serial killer in our town, and we have no idea where or who he is. Story 29. The Delphi takedown. There's been hundreds of suspects and tips as well as audio and video evidence, yet the results have been fruitless. I read about a new suspect being considered, so hopefully the authorities get something out of that. But I hope both of those girls' families can find peace and justice. Story 30. The disappearance and takedown of 80 Indigenous women along the Highway of Tears in northern BC. This began in 1970 and continues to this day. It seems plausible that there's a serial killer operating up there. Unfortunately, the RCMP didn't even start looking into this until 1998. It's disgusting how Indigenous people are treated here. Story 31. What happened to the guys who escaped from Alcatraz? I know they most likely drowned, but it would be cool to know one way or another. Answer. Wasn't it proven that they could have survived the trip on their makeshift boat? I'm kind of the opinion that they did survive the trip, but then hid out in another country and have probably been dead for a while. I know there is the theory that one of them actually attended the funeral of one of their mothers, but that might just be a false rumor at best. Story 32. Who the hell eliminated Jeffrey Epstein, and who were his clients? How we don't know the answer to this, and how no justice has been served truly boggles my mind. Edit. To clarify, I mean justice served to his clients were a part of the whole scheme. There's clearly some big players involved that have the power to cover up all their tracks. This just goes to show how corrupt the U.S. system is. Edit. First off, thank you the awards. This is my first post that has blown up. Secondly, to those of you saying there is no conspiracy here and that he eliminated himself, well, maybe so. But we know that he was involved in an intimacy trafficking ring. We even know several people who were on his flight logs, yet the public hasn't gotten any closure on a thorough investigation into any of these people. Ghislaine Maxwell said she has names of royalty and politicians. Everything I see points to a catacomb of misdirection and corruption. Story 33. I have a few. Also a fan of Unsolved mysteries. Asha Degree. A 9-year-old girl goes missing in the middle of the night on 21/1/2000. Law enforcement is confident her family is not involved. Asha was a well-adjusted kid, played basketball, and had an excellent family support system. Not long after her disappearance, several witnesses believe they saw her walking alongside the highway the night she went missing, in the rain and dead of night. A year and a half later, the backpack she took with her was found buried at a construction site, and it included items that were not hers. Was it a grooming situation and she was abducted? Did she experience an intense sleepwalking episode? No one has seen her since that night. It's heartbreaking. The Springfield Three is how most folks refer to the 1992 Missouri disappearance of Susie Streeter, 19 years old. Her friend Stacy McCall, 18, and Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt, 47. Susie and Stacy spent the evening at high school graduation parties and ended up at Cheryl and Susie's for the night with the intention of going to a water park the next day with friends to celebrate graduation. The three women were never seen again. Their purses, Cheryl's cigarettes and dog, and clothes were found at the house. Friends who came to search for the girls found a broken porch light and obscene voicemail messages on the recorder. There are several theories, but nothing proven. Finally, Abby Williams and Libby German were taken down in Delphi, Indiana on 21/3/2019. They spent a day off of school hanging out, were dropped at a popular local hiking trail for a fun couple of hours outside by Libby's older sister, and didn't arrive back at the trailhead for their pickup ride. The next day, the girls' remains were found not far from the trail. There are a lot of things about this case that really stick out. It's well known as Libby was able to get their killer briefly on camera before their tragic takedown. They have photo and audio evidence of this man, but have not been able to capture him. They encountered him on the Monon High Bridge, a former train bridge, and a very odd site for an abduction and takedown. And finally, Libby's sister Kelsey sticks out to me as an example of an incredible sister. She works so hard to get information out about the case. She's studying to enter LA justice system, and she puts in so much effort to keep her sister and Abby's memories alive. Highly recommend a Google and run Unsolved Mysteries dive on all of these cases. The more people who know, maybe there's a better chance these can get solved, and victims, friends, and families can get some semblance of justice and closure. Edited to update the year of Asha's disappearance to 2000. Thank you, UI Break, for Shusti. Answer: oh man, mine is Asha degree as well. Truly a heartbreaking case with such bizarre circumstances. I pass through Shelby on the drive to my parents' house, so I end up thinking of her often. BTW, she disappeared in 2000, not 2020. I always ask myself, what in the world would compel a 9-year-old little girl to leave the house in the middle of a rainy night? I've never come up with a good answer. Story 34. What really caused the demise of the megafauna outside of Africa? We lost toxodons, macrauchenias, glyptodons, and more. Story 35. What happened to my friend years ago? I met this person online a few years back. We became very close and even had the same birthday. This was back in the time where Skype was still somewhat usable and definitely before the Discord age. There was a night where we were playing a game and just chilling in a call. She said Barbie and she never came back after that. For 5 days following, she stayed in the Skype call muted and her character was online, a game we played together, those whole 5 days. After the 5th day, everything suddenly